Well, joining us now is a spokesperson for the Israeli Defense Forces, Lieutenant Colonel Peter Lerner. Thanks for being on the programme with us, Colonel Lerner. Let's begin with that audio recording, which I imagine you're very familiar with. Do you have a sense of who that exchange is taking place between? We had on our screens there Speaker A and Speaker B. What is your understanding of who's talking?
Thank you, Bella. Indeed, we've seen on the 7th of October how merciless Hamas has been towards Israelis. In our revelations this evening of how Hamas is using the Al-Shifa and other hospitals, we're showing how merciless they are towards Palestinians in the Gaza Strip. Regarding that conversation, it was an intercept by our intelligence with regard to the two individuals that were discussing the specifics of the tunnel system and the hospital and the abuse.
And that's my question, I guess. Yes, that is my question. As a journalist, forgive me, but I have to ask it. Do you have more information on who those people are?
Of course, this is intelligence intercept, so I can't go and delve into specifics. But of course, yes, we do.
Okay, right. Okay. We heard from a doctor earlier in the Al-Shifa hospital, which is the hospital that they're talking about in that clip. He says that those claims are, and I use his words here, an excuse. He says that hitting a hospital is a war crime. I just wonder what this new revelation from the Israeli Defense Forces lays the groundwork for. Is it, for those of us watching from the rest of the world, a softening of the ground in order for the IDF to begin to hit hospitals?
So, Belle, we, for the last 2 weeks, have been telling people to leave the north of the Gaza Strip, and we've made several calls, and also to the Al-Shifa hospital. Those calls have not been accepted and not been responded to and not been adhered to. And now we understand why, because Hamas is preventing people from moving. Hamas is limiting their capability, and this is the reality we are facing. So no, I would...
Hang on, just want to come in on that. I mean, 1.4 million people have moved. There are many, of course, who cannot, for physical reasons, move, but 1.4 million people have moved from the north to the south. Last night, the IDF carried out a sea raid on southern Gaza, which is supposed to be safe. That was supposed to be the place they're evacuating to, but they're not safe there because they're being hit in the south too. So what's the point of these evacuation orders?
No, we are conducting specific strikes in the south against specific targets. Not there are safer areas in the south, but where Hamas is operating, as we've shared extensively to Sky News, the footage of what we're striking, you can see it's specific precision strikes against specific locations. With regard to our other operations, indeed, we are conducting sweep and clear operations. We have been, for the last 2 days, deeper ground operations in the peripheral areas in order to seek out and engage anti-tank capabilities that Hamas have pre-positioned against our forces. And indeed, it's part of our preparations for potential ground operation that may come. The situation is as such. Since the 7th of October, Israel has decided to change the paradigm. Hamas can no longer be allowed to hold the power of governance in the Gaza Strip as a staging ground for terrorism against Israel.
Okay,
the paradigm is going to change.
I do want to come on to that. I just want to finish on the hospitals now, before we move on to that, which is, I guess my question now, and it was sort of begun by our correspondent who's in Ashkelon at the moment, Deborah Haynes. I just want to put the question to you. Do medical facilities and hospitals no longer enjoy the protection that they ought to enjoy under international laws when it comes to this particular conflict and when talking about the Israeli actions in Gaza?
I would say if stopped, if these actions continue from hospitals under certain conditions, indeed, hospitals could lose their protections that they're entitled to. Unfortunately, what we're revealing is a systematic...
Yeah, that's very clear. That's very clear.
Of those understandings. They have to go. They have to leave the hospitals. They have to let the people leave hospitals. They can't tell them to stay and hold them as hostage in the hospitals. This is the reality. That, as I said, they are merciless. We've seen how merciless they are when they put...
If they are, if they are there and if civilians are there, you've made clear that the Israeli Defense Forces continue their bombardment of those areas, those strikes, regardless of whether civilians are there or not.
No, we've raised a red flag to show the world how terrible, how brutal this organization is and why they need to go. and they're
okay.
taking advantage of the residents of the Gaza Strip. So
Okay, okay. You know, I understand. I understand. I'm so sorry. We don't have all the time in the world. You talked about the paradigm shift since the 7th of October that Israel is pushing now. Does Israel, do you think it is possible to eradicate Hamas? It is, after all, now, you know, it is an ideology as well as merely personnel. Some of that personnel is outside of Gaza. Do you think it is possible to eradicate Hamas?
Absolutely. The Hamas terrorist organization has created a government. A government has assets. They have terrorist infrastructure such as rocket launchers, such as naval capabilities, such as command and control positions. Absolutely, the ability to destroy and dismantle this organization as a governing and military authority is possible. We're determined to do it for the safety of all the people in the region.
OK, we just heard from the UN, from the US ambassador to the UN, the US, of course, a great friend of Israel, Linda Thomas-Greenfield. She said there has to be a vision for what comes next, a peace process based on a two-state solution. I put to you that after you've eradicated Hamas from Israel, there is no plan, from Gaza, I'm sorry. There currently is no plan. What is the plan after that? What happens to Gaza?
Well, ideally, the plan is a safe Israel, a safe Gaza Strip for everybody.
Governed by who?
Indeed, preferably, the Palestinians will determine their own destiny. Israel has no wishes to return to Gaza and control the Gaza Strip. We just don't want our families to be butchered in their bedrooms by terrorists. This is the situation.
But that's a void. That's a vacuum. There's no. That's literally.
This is a war that Hamas chose to fight. They chose to breach the perimeter. They strategically accumulated a huge amount of force, hundreds and hundreds of terrorists that breached into our homes. Imagine lying in bed at night and waking up with a terrorist with an AK-47 pointed at your face, shooting your partner as you sleep there, and then dragging you off to Gaza to hold you hostage. That's the reality nobody will ever allow to happen here again in Israel. The vision that needs to come needs to be a safe one for everybody, not for the.
Forgive me, you haven't answered the question, which is,
Hamas,
if not Hamas, if not Israel, who?
As I said, the Palestinians will need to determine their destiny. It needs to be one that accepts that Israel will live in peace side by side with Gaza.
Okay, so you would support a two-state solution?
Again, that's something that would really need to be addressed to the political echelon. Ideally, the IDF is responsible for securing and restoring security to the people of southern Israel, those that were so brutally massacred in their houses.
Okay, listen, Colonel Lerner, really great to talk to you. Thanks again for taking the time.